Gator of Gumbo Limbo. Page 2. Come to think of it, I said when my sinker hit the bottom, I haven't seen him for a couple of days. That was odd. Dajun was always around. He was part of the waterscape at Gumbo Limbo hole. He would bask on his beach in the morning and bask again in the heat of the afternoon in the cool water, his back, head, and tail exposed to the sun. The rest of the time he was watching for careless fish, turtles, birds, and beasts, with only his eyes and nose above the surface of the water. Dajun was swampland royalty. I scanned the lake. He was nowhere to be seen. The pest control department hired me, the man said. I'm here to shoot him. Shoot him? I all but shouted. You can't do that. Alligators are protected by law. Not when they're over 8 feet. He touched the pistol on his hip and sized me up. He took in my 5 feet 1 inches, my head of brown corkscrew curls, my freckles and my blue eyes. He smacked his lips. The one I'm after can eat a small girl like you in one gulp. I shrugged to say I didn't believe him. I know he could, he insisted. I'm an alligator hunter. Made my living hunting these critters until they passed the law about protecting them. Page 3. But Dajun's not eating anyone, I said. People over there in the condos? He gestured towards the development on the other side of the pineland. Filed a complaint. They're afraid of him. I'm surprised to see you here. Ain't you scared? Dajun's not vicious, I answered, and was about to tell him how a man named James and I fed the big alligator the snapping turtles we caught in an underwater trap. The turtles kept Dajun fat and happy. I decided not to tell him. This man was an official. I lived in the woods right behind where we were standing. I lived there with Mom and 3 other people. Outsiders call us the woods people. In Florida, the weather is so nice that homeless people can camp in the woods. By nature, we all feel uncomfortable around officials. Our group had been told to leave, but that's because nobody knew that we lived in these woods. Our group had never been told to leave, but that's because nobody knew we lived in these woods. Word of the terrible Dajun kept people away. He was the dragon protecting our gate. If you look on your figurative language page, on page 1, we read keen eyes peering out from under the cap like an armadillo under his bony armor. That was about the official. And it's comparing his eyes peering out to the armadillo's bony armor, and they use the word like, so that's a simile. This page said he was the dragon protecting the gate, so that's comparing Dajun to an imaginary gate protecting their area. That is a metaphor. They're making a comparison without using like or as. As unobtrusively as I want. Unobtrusively on the back of your packet is the first vocabulary word. Go ahead and put page 3 for that, and we'll draw a small picture. I searched under the cocoa palm branches that hung out over the water. Page 4. I was looking for the huge woody knots that are Dajun's eyes and nose. I couldn't find them, and I hoped he was on the bottom of the lake. He might well have been. The official was carrying a gun. A person who carries a gun acts aggressively. Animals sense this and disappear. Last week, a policeman with a gun rounded the hole. Dajun sank, and closing the water above him without a ripple was gone. The official, Travis, at least that was the name embroidered on his green shirt, watched me reel in my line and cast again. Pretty good for a girl, he said. Such uneducated statements make Mom and me furious, but I said nothing. I didn't want to start an argument that would hold him there 1 minute longer than need be. I bit my tongue and cast again. Travis went about his work. He walked around the jungly shore of Gumbo Limbo hole as best he could. He finally stopped where the pickerel weed grew tall. Then he scanned the water's surface. From where he stood, he could see the entire hole or lake, whatever you prefer to call our 2 acres of crystal water. He could see all kinds of birds, coots, gallinules, an ahinga, and 2 great egrets, but not the alligator. Travis made some notes in a notebook and came back. Page 5. Is that Dajun's sunning spot over there, he asked. He pointed to the white, gently sloping beach that the alligator had made by sliding in and out of the water. Page 5. I told him it was, but right away I was sorry I had. All this man had to do was stand where he was long enough, and Dajan would eventually come to shore to bask in the winter sunshine. I cast again, then searched the dark lily pads for Dajan's nose. He's hard to see when he's in the pads because his nostrils are open and dark as the leaves. He closes them when he dives. 3 feet back of those nostrils would be the horny coverings around his yellow eyes. Together with his nose, they make a triangle of bumps on the top of the water. They say alligator only when it's very cold does he stick just his nose out, and cold weather is rare in southern Florida. Dajan wasn't in the lily pads. Travis fingered his gun. Desperately, I plotted. He might be in the cypress strand, I said, pointing to a distant grove where I had never seen him. The herons are hunting a frog hatch in there. Gators like herons. Could be there if there's enough water, Travis said. I'll take a look. Slowly fighting his way around dense cocoa palms and stiff leaves of saw palmettos, he reached the cypress strand and disappeared. Page 6. He was gone a long time. I caught 2 nice bass before he returned looking discouraged, his green shirt ripped from the jungle's claws. He was also sweating. Find him? I asked. Nah. I made no comment, but I knew my face showed such glee that I was forced to bend my head. A disgruntled Travis walked a few steps to a log covered with resurrection ferns, the kind that wither when it's dry and revive when it rains. The ferns were withered because it was December, the dry season in Florida. They cracked when he sat down. There's a reward for anyone who can lead me to him, he said, handing me a card with his name and phone number on it. You come here often? Just now and then, I said cagily. I guess a young lady like you could use a reward. He was looking at the holes in my shirt. How much is it? I asked. $100. I leaned down and tied my sneaker, trying to act if it was nothing. I hoped the other woods people wouldn't learn about this. $100 would buy Priscilla a lot of the many gin bottles she collected. Caruso might like to have $100 since he's a concert singer and must have opera clothes. James wouldn't want the reward. Money doesn't mean much to him. He walks everywhere and gets his clothes from the poor people's shelter. Page 7. I was getting nervous. Dajan might surface any minute. He'd been under a long time. Also, Travis might look for Dajan in the woods, although alligators rarely, if ever, go into the woods, and he must know that. But the thought of him entering for any reason at all made me bite my nails. Mom's in my home was there. He might find it and report us. We'd have to move to the shelter for the homeless. That happened to Caruso once, and he never got over it. Mom said we are not homeless. We are just on vacation until she can buy a house. I put the official's card in my pocket. Sir, I said pleasantly, do you know what time it is? He looked at his watch. 5 o'clock. Oh, wow, I have got to get home. I reeled in the line, hook and sinker. By the way, sir, I said meekly, you say Dajan is dangerous?